The young genius was crippled in his right leg, but he had a beautiful girlfriend who was the campus belle. But just because of a casual joke, he ended up offending a wealthy heir. Not only did his parents lose their lives, he himself was also run over and killed. Unexpectedly, misfortune turned into fortune as he stepped onto the path of cultivation. Taking the seat of the master of Ngok Palace, he became a celestial king. But on his wedding night, he was betrayed by his fiancée. But his fate was not sealed. Carrying the memories of his past life, he was reborn back to his high school years. This life, he was determined to erase all humiliations. He cultivated each realm to perfection, going against the will of heaven to change his fate. Before long, the school bell rang. Bak Lai leaned on his cane and walked out of the classroom. The other students naturally kept their distance from him as usual. All of this was because of that traffic accident. But so what? Just one day was all he needed to restore this body. Bak Li was suddenly blocked by someone. "We've broken up. Can you stop following me everywhere?" The girl was Bak Lai's girlfriend in his past life. After his accident, she abandoned him. But at this moment, Bak Li no longer had any feelings for Lam Miu Miu. He said he couldn't understand and then continued walking out of the school. At that moment, a man in a suit walked over. "Miss Lam, my boss invites you over. He wants to help you teach that cripple a lesson." Lam Miu Miu was confused, "But who is your boss?" He uttered a name, Deep Lang of the Deep family. Lam Miu Miu was surprised, but soon after she regained her composure. The grudge between her and Bak Lai had not reached that level yet. So she refused the other party's goodwill, turned around, and left. The man in the suit approached a luxurious black car. Young master, Lam Miu Miu refused to cooperate. Inside the car, Diep Lang was holding a girl in his arms, though he looked quite handsome. But upon closer look, one would realize that he had no legs. The Bak Lai family deserves to die. Now is the time for them to pay their debt. I will make them understand what it feels like to fall into complete despair. It turned out that in his past life, Bak Li's father worked in Haitin City, established a transportation company, and became wealthy. However, unexpectedly, a truck driver got into an accident and crashed into Deep Lang. To avoid the Deep family's revenge, the first thing Bak Lai had to do was quickly restore his body to full health. So he sat cross-legged, and before long he had refined more than 100 points of light, becoming a Ling disciple. After a few hours of cultivation, Bak Lai's leg was completely healed. The next day, while Bak Li was on his way to school, a thug suddenly blocked his path. This man's name was Li Min Hao. He had always pursued Lam Miu Miu and also deeply hated Deep Lang. Li Min Hao said to Bak Lai, "There's someone waiting for you in the alley." Bak Lai glanced over and immediately recognized Kim Tan. Because in his past life, it was him who had beaten Bak Lai's parents so badly that they were gravely injured. Kim Tan's cultivation had even reached the Min Kin realm. Martial artists were divided into 4 major realms: Min Kin, Am Kin, Hoa Kin, and Dan Kin. At the Min Kin level, a punch could generate wind force with a strength exceeding 150 kilograms. However, Bak Lai showed no fear. "Who do you think you are to order me around?" Li Min Hao became furious and reached out to grab Bak Lai. But before he could even touch him, he was already sent flying by a strike. Bak Li coldly said, "Get lost." Li Min Hao was so furious that he gnashed his teeth. He lifted his leg to kick, but unexpectedly, not only did Bak Lai evade it, but he also took another punch. At this moment, Kim Tan quickly stepped forward. He looked Bak Lai up and down. "If you don't want to die, follow me into the alley." Bak Lai smirked. "What if I don't?" Kim Tan became furious. Transforming into a fierce beast, he raised his fist. He punched straight at Bak Lai's head, but unexpectedly, Bak Lai dodged it with ease. Bak Lai channeled all his strength into his right leg. Then he delivered a precise kick to Kim Tan's stomach. He coughed up blood. He was sent flying more than 10 meters away. But Bak Li didn't even care. This scene was witnessed by Lam Miu Miu. She is about to reach the point of covering her mouth, fearing that she will scream out loud. Kim Tan only sees a person without strength. Even if beaten to death, he never expected to be hit so hard that he would be seriously injured. Bak Lai let out a soft snort, saying that a useless person like him dares to boast that he will break my legs. At that moment, the school's security guard ran over. Bak Li hurriedly went into the school, realizing that he needed to be more careful in the future. After all, this is not the Nine Heavens continent. After that, Kim Tan called Deep Lang. Tell him that Bach Li might just be pretending to be lame. Deep Lang was furious. If you can't do it, I'll invite someone else. Kim Tan frowned. I will find someone else to deal with him, but those people only work for money. Deep Lang smirked. Money is not the issue. If you fail again, just wait to face my wrath. At the same time, Bach Li just returned to the classroom and sat down. Then, your deskmate Lu Dong came over, so you're fine now. Finally, Bach Li smiled because Lu Dong was not a bad person. He didn't look down on him despite his disability. Seeing Bach Li nod, Lu Dong was so excited that he stood on the table. Tonight, I'm treating to celebrate Bach Li's recovery. The door creaked as the classroom door opened. Lam Miu Miu looked at everyone. Her gaze lingered on Bach Li, and she felt a strange sensation in her heart. If it weren't for what happened before, I would probably be the one by your side. Finally, the class president Chung decided to organize the last gathering for the 12th grade. In the VIP room, everyone was happily singing. But Bach Li suddenly felt sad. Whether it's a handsome guy or a beautiful girl, in 100 years, they will still be just a pile of dust. Suddenly, he no longer felt in the mood to play. He quietly opened the door and stepped outside. Seeing this, Lam Miu Miu hesitated slightly. But she still chose to chase after him. Don't get me wrong, I have something I want to say to you. Later, you must be careful, be cautious of the Deep family. After saying that, she secretly glanced at Bach Li. However, Bach Li's face remained expressionless, clearly showing that he didn't take it seriously at all. Lam Miu Miu tossed out a remark, forget I ever said anything, then angrily walked into the restroom. Bach Li smiled. After everything we've been through, I no longer feel anything for you. But right at that moment, Lam Miu Miu's scream echoed. A fat man pinned her against the wall. Girl, your figure looks nice. Have a few drinks with me. After saying that, he moved his mouth closer. Lam Miu Miu struggled with all her might to resist, but she couldn't break free. She could only silently pray, someone, please save me. At the critical moment, Bach Li appeared, with just one punch. He sent the fat man flying with that single punch. Lam Miu Miu saw that the person approaching was Bach Li. Without any hesitation, she jumped straight into his arms. Bach Li raised both hands, looking extremely unnatural. He patted Lam Miu Miu's back. All right, let's go home. At this moment, the fat man had sobered up. He shouted at Bach Li, you brat, just you wait. Bach Li returned to the VIP room, but hadn't even sat for long yet. When the fat man aggressively entered with his gang of subordinates, class monitor Tu Chung introduced him to everyone. This is Trong An Vo, the cousin of the karaoke bar manager and also the person in charge of this area. Truong An Vo narrowed his eyes slightly. The girl who just went to the restroom. Tell her to come here and have a few drinks with me. Tu Chung trembled, but faced with such blatant intimidation, he didn't dare to refuse. Then he turned around and looked at Lam Miu Miu. Come outside with Truong for a bit. After all, Tu Chung was the class monitor, so even though Lam Miu Miu really didn't want to, she still had to give him some respect. But just as she was about to step out, Bach Li suddenly said, don't go with him. Truong An Vo grew furious. You brat, I thought you were mute. Cripple him for me. As soon as he gave the order, his subordinates lunged forward. However, their speed was nothing to Bach Li. It was even slower than a turtle. Throughout the entire process, those men couldn't even lay a finger on Bach Li. They were all beaten to the point of collapsing to the ground, completely unconscious. Bach Li smirked disdainfully at Truong An Vo. Who was it that you wanted to cripple? Truong An Vo immediately pulled out a gun. Ha ha, you're good at fighting, aren't you? But Bach Li wasn't afraid at all. He even moved in swiftly. You can try pulling the trigger, but you only have one chance, because after that, you will definitely die. Seeing Bach Li's cold eyes, Truong An Vo's body trembled. However, Bach Li's gaze grew even sharper. What's wrong? Don't dare to pull the trigger. Then be a good boy, put the gun down and kneel before me. His voice was like the roar of an explosion, echoing throughout the entire office. Truong An Vo jolted in shock, and the gun slipped from his hand, falling to the ground. Then he obediently knelt down. Bach Li was now preparing to clean up the scene. He told the students to leave first. But right after that, a man walked in. Truong An Vo, you dare to fire a gun here. Do you have a death wish? Hak Lao Dai pulled out his gun. But the young man showed no fear at all. He even took the initiative to step closer. Because with just one look, he could terrify his opponent into kneeling on the ground. At this moment, Hak Lao Dai's older cousin arrived. Are you the one who made my brother kneel on the ground? After speaking, he called out, Hak Long, A young man wearing a long cloak immediately stepped forward. "Kid, you must be in the business too, right? Make your move. I'll give you 3 free strikes." But Bok Lai smirked disdainfully. "When I fight someone, I never make the first move." These words piqued Hak Long's interest. He immediately tore off his long cloak, revealing a tattoo on his body. Then he stomped his foot forcefully on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Bok Lai. With a single punch, he sent everything flying. Even though Bok Lai used both hands to block, he was still sent flying dozens of meters away. A sharp pain spread through the back of his hand, making it clear just how powerful his opponent was. Without giving him any chance to rest, Hak Long attacked again, raising his hand at the same time. But just as it was about to land, Bok Lai blocked it with his left hand and deflected it away. Seizing the moment of his opponent's surprise, Bok Lai decisively gathered his strength and delivered a powerful punch to the left rib. Hak Long let out a cry, "No." But it was too late. Bok Lai had already thrown a powerful punch, landing precisely on his chin. Then he suddenly lifted his right leg, kicking him right in the head. Hak Long flew through the air like a kite with a broken string. To everyone's surprise, he passed out instantly. The entire hall was so silent that it seemed as if one could clearly hear the sound of a needle dropping to the ground. One must know that Hak Long was Truong Quang #1 general. Seeing that the situation was not good, Truong Quang immediately reached out his hand. "Tio Huinde, I am blind now. From now on, whenever you come to visit, everything will be free. What do you think?" However, Bok Lai was too lazy to pay attention to him, only leaving behind one sentence, "Hope you take better care of your dog in the future," then left the place. On the way, Lu Dong asked Bok Lai, "When did you become so powerful? I don't care, you must teach me." Bok Lai originally did not want to agree, but the moment he thought about the possibility of truly needing a helper in the future. In the end, he still nodded, after the university entrance exam. "If there is nothing urgent during the break, I will teach you." After that, he went alone to Sun Lam Park to cultivate, because this was the place closest to the most abundant source of spiritual energy. Very quickly, a night passed. After a loud shout, Bok Lai successfully broke through to the spiritual realm. But right at this moment, suddenly the sound of footsteps echoed over. Bok Li was just about to leave, when the old man behind him called out, "Young friend, please wait a moment." His granddaughter seemed dissatisfied. "Grandpa, why are you running so fast? Did you find that person yet?" As the girl was speaking, she also glanced at Bok Li, but she ignored him. The old man kept looking at Bok Lai. "I just heard a loud shout. Did you see that person?" Bok Lai did not want to invite trouble, so he shook his head. The girl glanced at him with contempt. "Such a cunning scoundrel, then what are you sneaking around here for?" Bok Lai let out a cold laugh. "What does it have to do with you?" The girl was about to say something else but was stopped by the old man, yet the moment she thought of Bok Lai's attitude. The girl truly could not hold back, immediately launching a kick that swept through like a whip. Bok Lai, although turning his back to the girl, but he could still sense everything, his body effortlessly dodging with ease. The girl's reaction was also very sharp. One leg kicked up toward the sky. The other leg struck toward him. Bok Li, slightly annoyed, reached out and grabbed the girl's leg, then exerted force and threw her away. The girl fell straight into the pond. The old man, seeing that the situation was not good, quickly leaped forward and rushed toward the pond. Rescuing his granddaughter, "Young friend, you've gone a bit too far." Bok Li chuckled lightly. "Haha, is it me who's gone too far, or is it you?" The old man's voice turned cold. "If I don't teach you a lesson today, I'm afraid this matter won't be settled." But after hearing that, Bok Li smirked playfully. "Who's teaching who is still uncertain? If you want to make a move, then hurry up." The old man's figure trembled, moving like Bach Bo Shuyen Duong. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of Bok Li. He threw a punch, but Bok Li blocked it. Bok Li did not dare to be careless and immediately counterattacked. The two exchanged blows, one palm from him, one fist from me. In just a few short minutes, they had already exchanged many rounds. Finally, both of them shouted at the same time. The palm, carrying powerful energy, and the fist infused with strength, clashed fiercely. The old man was astonished. "This brat can actually withstand my full-powered strike." Seizing the moment while the old man was slightly dazed, Bok Li channeled all his strength into his right fist. Boom! With a loud sound, both of them were sent flying at the same time. Bok Li staggered, directly crashing into the tree trunk behind him. However, the old man suffered even more, clutching his chest, nearly coughing up blood. I am Deep Ho Kwok. Earlier I was momentarily impulsive. I still ask for your forgiveness for acting recklessly along with my granddaughter, Deep Than Lone. Hearing this, a hint of killing intent flashed in Bakhlai's eyes. You are people of the Deep family. Deep Ho Kwok chuckled and nodded. That's right. I wonder if you would be willing to come and have a cup of tea. Bakhlai tossed out a reply, no need, then turned around and left. But in the next second, he was grabbed by Deep Than Lone, who refused to let go. You can't leave. Do you dare to not give my grandpa any respect? Bakhlai said coldly. If you don't let go, don't blame me for being rude. Deep Than Lone sneered. If you're not polite, then what? Are you planning to kill me? Bakhlai immediately became furious and reached out his hand, gripping her fair neck tightly. If you dare to move, I will kill you. Deep Ho Kwok quickly rushed over. She is my granddaughter and does not understand things. I hope you can show mercy. Suddenly, Bakhlai's gaze fell on Deep Than Lone's necklace, a wealthy family patriarch with hundreds of billions in his hands. Casting aside his dignity, he knelt down and bowed his head before a young man, all because of a single move from his opponent. He had defeated a top master of Amkin with just one move. Last night, the head of the Deep family was fighting against a young man with exceptional martial arts skills. His granddaughter even spoke rudely. As a result, she was grabbed by the throat by Bakhlai. Seeing her two soft mounds, Bakhlai did not hesitate, reaching out his hand. Deep Than Lone shut her eyes tightly, not daring to face what would happen next. At this moment, her grandfather shouted loudly to stop, wanting to rush over to save his granddaughter. Bakhlai merely snatched her necklace, considering it as her compensation to him, farewell. After that, Bakhlai went to the outskirts. The reason he wanted to take the necklace was because it contained more than 7,000 spirit points. Bakhlai did not hesitate any further, beginning to absorb the spirit points from the necklace. A few hours later, the brilliant glow of the necklace suddenly faded. Bakhlai let out a sigh of relief. He had finally condensed his first strand of spirit thread. But at this moment, behind him, he heard the voice of Deep Lang. That cripple hasn't gone to school yet. We should kill his parents first. Bakhlai's face instantly darkened, filled with killing intent. So soon, and you already want to go after my parents. If I don't kill you today, then when? This place was none other than the Deep family's villa. Deep Lang was indulging in intimacy with a girl on the bed, unaware that Bakhlai was standing outside. It wasn't easy to condense a strand of spirit thread. Might as well reward this brat with it. Bakhlai shot the spirit thread. A second later, a loud scream from the girl echoed through the villa. Hearing the scream, the members of the Deep family immediately burst through the door. They then saw the scene before them. Deep Ho Kwok's pupils immediately contracted. At this moment, Deep Lang was no longer moving, and a strange smile remained on his face. Deep Ho Kwok reached out his hand to check. His face immediately changed. He's dead, isn't he? Then his cold gaze turned to Lan Kyo Lin, who was squatting in the corner. What just happened? He asked. Lan Kyo Lin stammered. I don't know. He was fine just a moment ago. I only heard a sound ting, and then Deep Lang stopped moving. Upon hearing this, Deep Ho Kwok couldn't help but feel suspicious. Then he looked in the direction and noticed that the mirror was shattered. Could it be someone from the martial world, but reaching the level of Dankin Master? Only a master at the Dankin level could release such a powerful force. How could Deep Lang have offended a master? Thinking of this, Deep Ho Kwok asked Lan Kyo Lin, has Deep Lang offended anyone recently? Lan Kyo Lin hesitated before saying, it must be Bakhlai Van Thieu. Before this, Deep Lang sent someone to teach him a lesson. I have a picture. Deep Ho Kwok looked at the photo and said, why would it be him? Could it be that his master is a Dankin master? Is this a subtle warning to me, telling me not to touch him? The more he thought about it, the darker the killing intent in his eyes became. In the end, he let out a sigh. From now on, no one is to mention this matter again. Announced to the public that Deep Lang died of a heart attack. Deep Kwang Khon, the biological father of Deep Lang, brought it up. Why, though? He is still your grandson. Deep Ho Kwok, tears streaming down, shouted in anger, shut up, I have my own opinion on this matter. At the same time, Bakhlai, leisurely eating ice cream, was suddenly called back by Li Min Hao. Don't think that just because your wound has healed and you know a bit of martial arts, you're impressive. Someone came looking for me and told me to have you go with them for a trip. Bakhlai smirked. You think you can invite me to go? Tien Min Hao deliberately put on an act and said, "The people of Diepjia are looking for you." Bok Li immediately frowned. Did they know I killed Deep Lang? No, that's not right. If they were certain I was the one who killed him, they wouldn't simply be inviting me for a talk. Very quickly, Bok Li arrived at Diepjia's mansion, but the first person he met was Deep Than Lone. "I've already investigated you. You killed Deep Lang, didn't you?" Bok Li coldly said, "So what if I did? What if I didn't?" Deep Than Lone said with an assertive attitude, "Tell me who is your master." Bok Li was stunned upon hearing that, "I don't have a master, but this is good. I can use it to intimidate them." He then laughed and said, "My master never hesitates to kill, let alone someone from Diepjia, as if I would be afraid of Diepjia." Deep Than Lone angrily gripped the sofa tightly. "I advise you not to act tough. Hand over all your martial arts manuals now." While the two were confronting each other, an old man walked over. "I am Nu Ye Fong. I heard you managed to fight to a draw with Deep Lang. How about we have a little sparring match?" Bok Li gave him a once-over. Truly didn't expect his opponent to be a master of Amkin. Then he chuckled. "Diep Ho Kwok, shouldn't you make an appearance now?" Hearing that, Deep Ho Kwok poked his head out. "Truly didn't expect you to be so sharp and perceptive." Bok Li coldly turned his head to look at him. "So today you all want me to stay at Diepjia, huh?" Deep Ho Kwok's expression darkened. "Unless you tell me who your master is, even if you grow wings, it will be hard for you to escape." Bok Li looked around. "You all are not qualified to meet my master." Nuye Fong clenched his fist. "You're about to die and still talking back, then I'll just kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hand and struck toward Bok Li. However, Bok Li was extremely quick, lowering his waist and easily dodging his strike. Just as Nuye Fong lifted his foot, ready to end Bok Li's life, his fingertip suddenly became as sharp as a sword, a thin thread emerging from the tip of his finger. It then pierced straight into the center of his forehead. Even the wall behind him was pierced. It was also punctured with a large hole. Then he collapsed to his knees, his body remaining straight. Bok Li spoke up with a challenging tone. "Who will be next?" Deep Ho Kwok didn't hesitate at all and jumped down from the second floor. Bok Li thought he wanted to personally spar with him. Instead, he bowed and said, "Senior Bok Li, please don't be angry. I apologize on behalf of Diepjia. Please forgive Diepjia. If you have any requests, just say them. Diep Ho Kwok, I will definitely agree to everything." The head of a wealthy family, holding hundreds of billions in his hands. Yet he had to bow his head and kneel before a young man. Not only that, every year he voluntarily spent 50 million to have this young man provide protection. He saw him hand the phone to him. Bok Li then entered his bank account number into it. Then he returned the phone. "If your attitude is this sincere, I don't mind. Besides, let me remind you of this. Don't even think about going after my parents. If anything happens to them, I will make sure that the entire Diepjia will perish with them." After leaving Diepjia's mansion, Bok Li happened to pass by an antique shop. He noticed a teapot inside the shop emitting a faint glow. Although it couldn't compare to Diep Thang Lone's necklace, it surely had about 3,000 or 4,000 points of spiritual energy. He took a look around and asked for the price of the teapot. The shopkeeper, seeing that he was just a poor student, casually said the price was 180,000 yuan. However, Bok Li currently didn't have any money, as the protection fee from Diepjia wouldn't be available until tomorrow. So he stroked his chin deep in thought. "How about this? I'll take this teapot home and use it for a day, then bring it back and return it to you. What do you think?" Seeing the necklace, the shopkeeper quickly snatched it away. A piece of jade so bright must be worth at least 1 million yuan. Just like that, the two of them completed the transaction. Upon returning home, Bok Li immediately took the teapot in both hands, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. By the time morning came, 2 strands of spiritual energy finally appeared in his dantian. Looking at the transfer message on the screen, he knew it was time to go retrieve that jade. When Bok Li arrived at the antique shop, the shopkeeper pretended not to recognize him. "Are you sure you can blatantly steal that necklace worth millions of yuan?" Bok Li then squeezed the bronze teapot. Seeing this scene, the shopkeeper immediately became frightened. Unconsciously, he took a step back. But how could he easily compromise like that? Don't think that just because you have some martial skills, you're so impressive. Welcome, guest. At the door, 4 or 5 young men suddenly appeared. "This kid, you really don't know your own limits. Tell me, do you want to go on your own, or should we help you?" Bok Li sneered. First, you all get lost. Daitree, angered, raised his hand and grabbed the water pipe, preparing to attack Bach Li. A second later, he was struck in the chin by a knee to the face. A few of his teeth were knocked out. Then Bach Li pressed down on his shoulder. He spun 360 degrees in the air. He attacked the ones who were standing there, staring in confusion. Then 4 screams of agony echoed as everyone was knocked down, lying flat on the ground. The water pipe in Daitree's hand fell to the ground. So powerful. In front of him, I have no chance of winning at all. Bach Li turned his head coldly and said, "Speak quickly, bring the necklace here." However, the shopkeeper replied that he had sold it to a wealthy merchant for 1 million yuan. Bach Li's expression darkened. He clearly knew that the necklace was worth much more than 1 million yuan. "Hurry up and get it back for me," he commanded. The shopkeeper immediately took out his phone and called, "Boss Quach, I have something I want to discuss with you." As a result, before he could finish speaking, the person on the other end of the line started cursing him out. The shopkeeper, feeling helpless, hung up the phone and said, "Boss, the person who bought the necklace is from the Quach family. I don't dare to mess with them." Bach Li frowned and thought, Nui Fong, who was killed, also seemed to be from the Quach family. For now, focusing on my cultivation is the most important thing. Thinking of this, the corner of Bach Li's mouth curled into a smile. "Take me to the place where you sell antiques. Who knows? I might spare your life." Just like that, the shopkeeper drove Bach Li to the location. They arrived at the antique market. The auctioneer looked Bach Li up and down, noticing his shabby clothes, thinking he didn't look like someone from a big business background. He narrowed his eyes and said, "If my cousin has vouched for you, then follow me this way." After saying that, she coldly walked away, and the shopkeeper explained, "Bach Li, don't be angry. This is my cousin, named Vu Tran Yen. She graduated from the history department of Oxford University, and she usually doesn't think much of me." When they arrived at the auction area, Vu Tran Yen smiled and looked at Bach Li. "All the antiques ready for auction are here, sir. You can take your time to look around." Bach Li shoved his hands into his pockets and walked over to the display case. When Bach Li saw the pearl and the bracelet, his eyes narrowed in interest. Bach Li felt a thrill of excitement inside. 9,000 points of spiritual light, he thought to himself. So I reached for the 2 items, taking the Damin Chao and the ring next to it. Vu Tran Yen was surprised. She didn't expect it to be someone with money. These 2 items were worth at least 20 million yuan. Then she immediately shook hands with Bach Li. "This time our cooperation was very pleasant, and I hope we can collaborate again next time." That's right. Today in the city of Jade, there's a gemstone exhibition where many merchants are bringing their treasures. I wonder if Bach Li is interested. Bach Li nodded. "I will bring these items back to the hotel and rest for a while. After an hour we will set off together. The works of the world's most renowned sculptors." Again, a high school student called it trash. It was just the item that the host took out as the first item for the auction. The 2 stones looked very ordinary, but a few minutes later its price had already risen to 21 million yuan. At this moment, Bach Li suddenly appeared with 210 million and 100,000. This caught everyone off guard, as no one expected the host to strike the gavel and complete the transaction. Upon hearing that, Bach Li knew he had been deceived. Could it be that everyone else was also watching him? I should still examine the quality of this jade stone now. Bach Li picked up one of the jade stones. 2 threads of ling silk in his body surged out, swallowing the spiritual light within the jade stone without a way to stop. Sure enough, they were looking for a proxy to buy it at a higher price. The color of this jade stone wasn't very beautiful. Bach Li sighed and said then, "I won't take these 2 gemstones anymore." The host suddenly laughed and said, "I see, you're just a cat preaching, can't even afford to buy it." Before Bach Li could say anything, a man in a suit approached and said, "Now that you say you won't take it, it's already too late. This is a breach of contract. The light penalty would be paying compensation, and the heavy penalty would be jail time." Bach Li shrugged and said, "What are you all doing? Do you really think I don't know, with the market price going up like this? Deceiving a high school student probably isn't illegal, right?" The man in the suit pondered for a moment and then spoke, "Leave quickly. From now on, the city of Jade doesn't welcome you." Bach Li sneered and said, "Just because you tell me to leave, do you think I will?" The man in the suit waved his hand and ordered, "Where are they? Quickly, drag him out for me." The guards immediately stepped forward and surrounded Bach Li. At the tense moment, a girl stood up and started shouting. "Everyone stop," she commanded. The person who approached was Vu Tran Yen. "Kim Long, perhaps I'll meet Mr. Kim soon. If he still wants my brother to buy the jade, I will transfer the payment to purchase it." Kim Long heard this and laughed as if he had struck gold. This small matter probably doesn't need to trouble Mr. Kim. If this kid is one of ours, then let's just consider it as if nothing happened. Vu Tran Yen ignored Kim Long and pulled Bak Lai away from the scene. When they reached the main hall, the two of them ran into Mr. Kim. Tran Yen said, "It's been a long time since we last met." Vu Tran Yen flashed a bright smile and said, "These two are my family. Today I brought them here to broaden their horizons." Mr. Kim nodded casually and said, "Miss Vu, come over here with me for a moment. I'll introduce you to a few of my friends." After the two left, Vuong Pu Kui turned to Bak Li and said, "How about we go to the sculpture display and take a look?" Soon, a painting of an old man fishing worth 10 million yuan caught Bak Li's attention. He used his ability to see through to examine the painting and discovered that there were over 100 points of spiritual light on it. Suddenly, his eyes lit up like car headlights. If I could carve something like this, would it also be worth 10 million yuan? Before Vuong Pu Kui could respond, a girl mocked, "The masterpiece of Master Vuong Lam. Isn't it something you could carve yourself? With that pitiful appearance, I don't think you even know how to carve." Bak Lai sneered, "As for the so-called masterpiece, it's just like this." Yet they still dare to claim the title of Grand Master. As soon as he finished speaking, Vuong Lam walked over and said, "If you say I'm not worthy, then bring your own work here and let's compare. What do you think?" Vu Tran Yen peeked out from the crowd and said, "My family member doesn't understand the situation. I hope the esteemed one can show some tolerance and leniency." Vuong Lam's expression darkened. "If you are a member of the Vu family." Bak Li calmly replied, "I have no relations with the Vu family. Although I didn't bring any artwork, I can make your old man fishing sculpture even more perfect. I wonder if you dare to wager with me." A sharp gleam appeared in Vuong Lam's eyes. "How do you plan to change it?" Bak Lai said, "Bring out your fishing painting, and I'll show you the answer." After saying that, he took out a pearl worth more than 20,000 yuan and added, "I'll use this to trouble you. Bring out your painting, and let me take a look for a few minutes." Hearing that, Vuong Lam laughed and said, "Then I will wager with you," Vuong Lam said. "If you can really embroider flowers on this, I will offer it to you with both hands." Everyone present was confused, and all of them showed expressions of surprise. At this moment, Mr. Kim took out a remote control and said, "Kid Bak Lai, I'll help you break that glass display case." Bak Lai stood in front of the display case with his hands in his pockets. He then pressed on the spiritual light, guiding it into the fishing painting. In that moment, the entire painting became vivid and lifelike, making it unforgettable for anyone who looked at it. However, this feeling was something outsiders couldn't perceive, and soon whispers filled the air. "It's just pretending to be fancy. There's no real change at all." As a result, 1 second later, they saw Vuong Lam bowing deeply in front of Bak Li, saying, "Please accept this from me, old man, the most famous sculptor in Hoa." Suddenly he bowed and showed respect to a high school student. The hall, which was noisy at first, suddenly became silent. Bak Lai quickly helped Vuong Lam up and said, "Sorry, I was just joking with you." At that moment, Kim Feng Vu suddenly clapped his hands. "I didn't expect that our city of Haiduang would have a master sculptor," Kim Feng Vu remarked. As soon as he finished speaking, a loud burst of laughter came from outside the door. "Ha ha, you even deserve to be called a master sculptor." "The person was Quach Vu Huang from the Quach family. I'm here to buy sculptures. Quickly bring them out for me to see," he said. Vuong Lam said directly, "This belongs to Bak Li now. I don't have the right to sell it." Quach Vu Huang glanced at Bak Li and said, "You've probably heard of the Bach family name. Name your price." Then Bak Lai smirked and said, "What if I don't sell?" Quach Vu Hang's expression suddenly darkened. "Do you dare to disrespect the Quach family?" Bak Lai clicked his tongue and said, "I've heard of the Quach family and the Deep family." After speaking, he turned to Deep Than Lone beside him and said, "Don't hide anymore. I'm asking you a question. Go ahead and answer. Does someone whom the Deep family has supported need to listen to the Quach family?" Deep Than Lone hesitated and said, "If I admit it, how will the Deep family's business fare in the future?" Thinking of this, she became furious and pointed at Bak Lai, saying, "Don't speak nonsense. You severely injured my grandfather and were the murderer who killed my father, Nui Fong. You say the Deep family supports you." Hearing this, Quash Vu Hang's face changed. You're the murderer who killed my uncle. Bach Lai remained indifferent, still staring at Diep Than Lone. Are you sure what you're saying is the truth? I'll give you one more chance. Diep Than Lone trembled in fear. If she continued, the Deep family would surely face Bach Lai's revenge. She finally shook her head and said, Sorry, I remembered it wrong. Quach Vu Hang shouted, Than Lone, is he really the murderer? Diep Than Lone continued shaking her head. I remembered it wrong. Quach Vu Hang was on the verge of exploding. He stayed silent for a long while. At this moment, Bach Lai walked towards Diep Than Lone and said, Do you think everything is settled with just one sentence? Diep Than Lone took out a necklace and said, What more do you want? My siblings took my necklace and then sold it to the Quash family. Bach Lai took the necklace in his hand. He pulled Diep Than Lone forward and said, Then I'll return it to you, is that all right? I was even planning to kill the Quash family to get the necklace back for you. Diep Than Lone's body went limp, feeling a wave of emotion, as if she were being gently caressed. The others were speechless. Isn't she supposed to be engaged to Quash Vu Hang? Why is she still tangled up with this Bach Lai guy? Then Bach Li took out the night pearl and the jade pendant. These two items I bought at the Tien Lac auction, worth 6.5 billion. Is this enough to compensate for your losses? Diep Than Lone was stunned for a few seconds, then quickly snatched the two items. After all, it could help reduce the losses of the Deep family. Quach Vu Hang, furious, laughed mockingly. You still want me to answer? Quach Vu Hoang, furious, laughed mockingly. You still want me to answer? So I'll answer you right away, Quach Vu Hoang said. Kiet Quan ripped off one of its legs. The muscular man beside him immediately raised his fist towards Bach Li. You brat, a punch from me will scare you. Before he could finish his words, he was immediately punched by Bach Li. With a loud thud, he was sent flying several meters, then crashed to the ground with a heavy thud. Quach Vu Hoang stood there dumbfounded, his face longer than a horse's. Did you just say my leg is useless? Bach Lai said coldly. To be honest, this leg of mine was once cut off by someone else, so I swore that if anyone tries to cut my leg again, I'll make them pay double. Quach Vu Hoang, hearing this, immediately burst into laughter. Who do you think you are, the heavens? Bach Lai's gaze turned cold, his eyebrows furrowed. These legs belong to me. His long hand, like a sword, was about to cut off Quach Vu Hoang's legs. Suddenly, two people rushed in from somewhere and shouted, Stop! We are the police! Bach Lai was about to strike back, but his ears suddenly twitched. Then he smirked coldly and allowed the two people to restrain him. Along with the two people, there was also a short-haired girl who had impressive abilities. Bach Lai furrowed his brows, thinking to himself, You should know that on the Ku Tien continent, he could easily destroy a nation. It was just an ordinary day for him. But now he could only obediently raise both hands and head to the police station to give his statement. Quach Vu Hang arrogantly sneered, Even though you've been arrested by the police, the Quach family won't let you off. Bach Lai said nothing. He silently pointed a finger. Quach Vu Hang immediately fell to his knees, clutching his knees and crying out in pain. The female police officer aimed her gun at Bach Lai. He smirked and said, Comrade officer, do you have any evidence? The crowd suddenly started whispering. Earlier, there was a flash of light. Did you see that? The words, after reaching the female police officer's ears, made her hesitate for a moment. She immediately interrogated Bach Lai. What exactly was that light? Bach Lai clicked his tongue and said, You don't know, how should I know? Judging by the way you speak, you aren't local police, right? The Hoaha Special Task Force. They even invited a high school student to be an instructor. Earlier, when no one was paying attention, Bach Lai. With a single gesture, Bach Lai effortlessly sliced off both of Quach Vu Hang's legs. The female officer immediately aimed her gun at Bach Lai. She demanded, What was that light just now? Bach Lai sneered, If even you don't know, how would I? Besides, you're not a local officer, are you? I think you've got the wrong person. You were all lying in wait here for that treasure, weren't you? Kim Feng Vu was startled. What treasure are you talking about? The female officer sneered. So you're not a member of that team. Bach Lai turned around, smiling mysteriously. Of course not. I'm just a high school student at the research academy. Besides, if I really wanted to kill them, even a gun wouldn't be a threat to me. The female police officer grabbed Bach Lai by the collar. You think you're a Dankin grandmaster, able to destroy an entire nation in just 10 steps? Bach Li asked back. You've seen it already. Hearing that, The female police officer frowned because she knew that if Bach Li was really a Dankin grandmaster, she wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Bach Li suddenly remembered that in his past life, when Phi Thoi Than was robbed, a female police officer sought justice, and it was none other than the woman in front of him, so he spoke up. "Your name is Q Fong Lin, right?" Q Fong Lin stepped closer and whispered into his ear. "I don't care how you know my name, but can you help me with something?" Bach Li replied immediately. "What about the benefits?" Q Fong Lin let go of her hand. "The benefit is that I won't arrest you anymore. To be honest with you, we are from the Dong Chao Special Forces team. If you can help us retrieve all the stolen treasures, we will release you and invite you to take the position of instructor for the Special Forces team, enjoying the benefits of a Hoaha officer." As soon as she finished speaking, the two people accompanying her immediately looked at Bach Li. They seemed to be waiting for him to agree. Bach Li stroked his chin. "Although this proposal is somewhat interesting to me, I've been too busy lately and can't go." Q Fong Lin grew anxious. "Many people want this opportunity but can't get it. What are you so busy with?" Bach Li remained silent for a moment. "Recently, I have something big to take care of." "You're not planning to make a move against the Deep family, are you?" "Probably not. Maybe you've thought it through and want to take me as your disciple." Bach Li raised 3 fingers. 3 days left, which means the day after tomorrow, I have to take the university entrance exam, and I haven't even reviewed yet. Hearing that, the crowd was speechless, because no one could truly predict his thoughts. At this moment, Kim Fung Vu hurriedly spoke. "Officer, what did you mean by the treasures you just mentioned?" Bach Li smirked again. "The treasures and jade displayed this time must have something even more valuable, right?" Before Kim Fung Vu could respond, Kyo Fong Lin had already spoken. "If our information is correct, the gemstone displayed this time will include one of the 4 legendary stones of Hoaha. Sun Wukong emerges, right?" Kim Fung Vu nodded. "Sun Wukong emerges will be displayed tonight. If there really is a robbery, what should we do?" Kyu Fong Lin shared her thoughts. "There won't be any unexpected incidents, but as a precaution, I still hope Bach Li can help us. He will be responsible for ensuring the safety of Boss Kim. At the very least, that criminal group doesn't have a Grandmaster-level expert. Otherwise, they would have taken the legendary stone long ago." Bach Li happily agreed. He also wanted to see that legendary stone. At this moment, Deep Than Lone handed over a glass of red wine. "The police didn't give you a hard time, did they?" But Bach Li didn't take it. Instead, he patted her on the shoulder. "No need to get close. Just remember to keep your word in the future. That way, not only will I not hold a grudge, but I'll also protect the Deep family. But if something like this happens again, don't even mention 65 billion. Even 650 billion won't be enough to save the Deep family." After saying these words, Bach Li immediately left, leaving only Deep Than Lone standing there in a daze. Very quickly, it was already 5 or 6 in the evening. Kim Fung Vu stepped onto the stage to give a speech. "The treasure of Phi Thoi City will appear right after this. Everyone, take a guess. What do you think it is?" Everyone started buzzing with excitement. "Stop teasing us and bring it out already." Kim Fung Vu lifted the cloth covering, revealing a transparent glass box through which the object inside could be seen clearly. "This is today's treasure," Sun Wukong emerges. Bach Li was stunned. "This aura is innate spirit stone. Once it nurtures life, it becomes an innate spirit body, the invincible martial god of the world." Bach Li couldn't help but ask, "I wonder where its owner is. Are they willing to sell it?" Vuong Lam slowly explained. "That person is seriously ill and cannot leave their home. But if someone can cure the illness, that person will use this legendary stone as payment. The important thing is that it's not just them who are sick. Nearly the entire family, more than 100 people, are suffering from the same condition." Bach Li chuckled. "I can cure them." Vuong Lam didn't seem surprised at all. "I knew you would have a way." Suddenly, a group of people burst through the door. A girl saw them first and immediately shouted loudly. As a result, a second later, her entire body suddenly turned cold. Little girl shouting so loud, "Are you afraid I won't find you?" The boss holds hundreds of billions from Jade City. And yet he invited a student, paying 3 times the advisor's fee. The annual salary reaches tens of billions, plus an additional 10% shares. Just earlier, a group of assassins stormed into the Jade exhibition. The 2 in plain clothes raised their guns to show that they were the police. "Stop right there. We are the police." But the assassins didn't even bother to listen after hearing that. They immediately leaped up. They saw a shadowy figure, passing straight through the 2 police officers. A second later, the police officer clutched his neck as blood gushed out. Then he collapsed to the ground. Seeing this scene, everyone at the venue was terrified and scattered in all directions. However, the assassins had no intention of letting them go. At this moment, someone had already reached the main entrance. But as soon as they opened the door, a gun was pointed straight at their head. It turns out that outside there had long been another group of people guarding the entrance and exit. Kim Hung-Vu shouted loudly into the mic, "No need to worry, the police will definitely send a rescue team." The assassin slowly pressed the gun against him. "We only want money. We are not here to kill anyone. Quickly hand over." Sun Wukong emerges. But unexpectedly, Kim Fung-Vu would rather die than pay attention to what he said. The assassin laughed. "It seems like Boss Kim wants to die, huh?" He ordered the underling holding a long knife to stab towards Kim Fung-Vu, who was standing there stunned. But at that moment, a chair flew over. The assassin could only change his target and slash the chair in half. Then he looked back. "Who is it?" Bak Li dragged the corpse forward. "You said you came for money, not to kill people. So may I ask, did this girl rush into that knife and die on her own?" The assassin laughed. "You want to know how she died? Then let me send you down there to ask her." Bak Li's fingers were as sharp as a sword, silently manipulating the spiritual thread. "Offended, then let me borrow your body for a moment. Consider it as letting you take revenge with your own hands." After saying that, he transmitted the spiritual thread to the back of the girl's neck. Suddenly, another assassin appeared, pressing a dagger against Bak Li's neck. However, a second later, he was kicked away. What surprised everyone was that the kick actually came from that corpse. At the same time, two other assassins rushed over, but Bak Li remained standing there without moving, because he knew the girl would definitely take action to eliminate them. Just as expected in the end, under the cooperation of the two, they could easily deal with the two assassins. The assassin angrily shouted, "No matter what tricks he is playing, there are only two of them. Attack all at once." Before he could finish speaking, the group of assassins was knocked back to their original positions. Then Bak Li retrieved the spiritual thread. This spiritual thread seizure technique is a forbidden art because manipulating the dead harms martial arts, the victims killing a few scums like you with their own hands. I don't care about such things. At this moment at the scene, only one last assassin remained. Things had come to this point. It seems that only by using my gun technique can this situation be resolved. Bak Li narrowed his eyes. What kind of technique is this? They only saw the assassin place his hand on the gun trigger, but instead shot out two flowers. "Boss, I was wrong performing a trick for you. As an apology, if you feel entertained, please forgive me." Everyone there was stunned. They had never seen such an absurd way of begging for forgiveness before. Bak Li laughed. "Seeing that you also have a sense of humor, as for robbing and killing people, I will spare you. But smoking in a public place, I have no intention of forgiving you." After saying that, he delivered a powerful blow straight to his face. The assassin lay on the ground, groaning, apologizing. "I won't smoke anymore." Bak Li flicked the cigarette to the ground with a handsome demeanor, immediately received countless compliments from everyone. At this moment, Vuong Lam approached, truly unexpected. Bak Li master is so formidable, not only a master sculptor of the world, but also a talented martial artist. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. Bak Li pushed Vuong Lam away and jumped along with him. It turns out that two more fish slipped through the net. "Daring to attack my boss, you must have a death wish." Bak Li ran forward, but the bullet was shot from behind. The two assassins were dumbfounded, but the bullet accumulated over 2.5 years did not hit a single shot. A moment later, they saw Bak Li appear in front of them. Using his hands, he grabbed the heads of the two men. With a thud, he slammed their heads hard onto the ground. Just after he finished dealing with them, Qiu Fonglin led people rushing in. "Everyone freeze, hands behind your head, sit down." But as soon as she saw the scene in front of her, the police officer was shocked, speechless. However, Bak Li remained an extremely calm officer. "No need to worry, I have dealt with all the robbers already." Qiu Fonglin breathed a sigh of relief. "Truly did not expect you to be this strong anyway, thank you." Very quickly, all the assassins had handcuffs on their wrists. The one who performed the trick had a fierce expression. "Bak Li Van Tu, I don't believe you are some kind of master Tuyet Fong. I swear I will make your house fall apart." In that box, Kim Fung-Vu brought a box. "This small gift is a token of my sincerity. Please accept it." Bak Li opened it to see it was a gemstone worth 17.5 billion. Kim Fung-Vu smiled and said, "I have one more request. I hope Mr. Bak Li can become the advisor of our Jade City. The annual salary is 35 billion. Additionally, there is 10% of Jade shares. The old man with cancer cannot survive half a day. The family offers a reward of 1 billion to find a renowned doctor. However, even the head of the department at the top hospital, or a famous wandering sorcerer, all are helpless. However, this high school student only used a silver hairpin to completely and thoroughly cure it. Earlier, Kim Fung also invited Bach Lai to take on the role of lifelong advisor for the Jade City. Bach Li did not refuse. After agreeing, he looked at Vuong Lam. Next, let's go treat that old friend of yours. 2 hours later, Bach Lai appeared at the mansion. Tu Van Ha immediately asked, "Are you sure you can really cure the old master's illness?" Bach Lai nodded. "I can cure his illness. But as for the hereditary albinism in your family, I can't guarantee it now. Get me a silver needle." Tu Van Ha, filled with excitement, said, "As long as you can cure my father, the stone from which Ngokong emerged will be yours." After obtaining the silver needle, Bach Lai did not immediately treat Mr. Tu. If it weren't for this stone, it would probably be difficult to cure the illness of the Tu family. But with it, things will be much easier. Next, I will use my spirit thread to lure Sun Wukong to emerge. Thinking that, he pushed the Lin Tai thread from his dantian out, transforming it into a bagua shape, then gently pushing Lin Ti to slowly fly toward the stone. But suddenly the face of Thatch Hao emitted a red light. Seeing that, Bach Lai's heart shouted, "Could it be that the soul of Thatch Hao is not dead yet? Today you lend me Lin Ti, if not I will repay you 100 times. Bach Li Van Tu swears to you, I will definitely make you successfully emerge, transform into the innate creature of this world." He sat continuously for 2 hours. At this point it was already past midnight. When he opened his eyes, a weak voice echoed beside his ear. The boy Bach Lai quickly turned his head to look at the bed. "You're awake now." The old man forced a smile. "I haven't died. How could I sleep forever? If I'm not mistaken, you were cultivating just now, right?" Bach Li nodded and stood up. "The old man now, I will heal you." Saying that, he took out a silver needle, sitting cross-legged behind him, gripping tightly the collar of his shirt. Under the old man's astonished gaze, he threw him up into the air. The technique of the Ngok Tu sect, once successful, could alter life and death. Although my cultivation is still limited, curing cancer caused by a hereditary illness should not be a problem. Thinking that, Bach Lai no longer hesitated. He released several rays of spiritual light. The old man screamed in pain. The medical skill was too powerful. After a series of powerful moves like a tiger, Bach Li raised his hand to catch him. "The last needle might hurt a bit. Try to endure it." After saying that, he took out a long and thick silver needle. Then, a scream, like that of a pig being slaughtered, echoed from the room. The father and son of the Tu family were stunned. It was the scream of my father. It's the first time I've heard my grandfather cry out so miserably. At this moment, the door to the room suddenly opened. Bach Lai helped Tu Lam out, saying, "In less than a month, your father's health will fully recover. Let Sun Wukong emerge. Give it to Bach Lai. Consider it as payment for the healing." Tu Van Ha suddenly felt awkward, while the young martial artist said, "I've found Du Thap Tam. They've also helped the Tu family treat the albinism." Tu Lam was very surprised. Duthan went missing for 20 years and he's still alive. Tu Vo smiled and nodded. "Your instructor has made contact with him already." Bach Li sneered. "Bother. Do you understand the law of cause and effect? Can it still be done? Don't know if you all still want to keep your promises to me?" Tu Lam didn't hesitate and spoke immediately. "Don't worry. We'll have someone decline. Du Thap Tam, politely, after you've treated our family, we'll invite him over later." Bach Lai gently nodded. After all, he was the head of the Tu family and still followed the proper principles. Thinking that it was already evening, Tu Lam invited him. "Why don't you stay at the Tu family's house for now?" Bach Lai didn't refuse. He went to the lake, sat down in meditation, and began cultivating. However, because the commotion was too loud, the Tu family couldn't sleep the whole night. Tu Van Hoa expressed his thoughts. "Are you planning to have Bach Li Van help Tu Vu as well?" Tu Lam's gaze seemed regretful as he took his father to visit Tu Vu. In the dark room, Tu Huang Vu was sitting on the chair. "Grandfather, why are you here? Have you recovered from your illness?" Tu Lam smiled. "I'm better now. A divine doctor came to our house." Tu Huang Vu immediately became excited. "So can that person treat me? Can I meet them now?" Tu Lam stroked her head. "That divine doctor is cultivating by the lake. Grandpa will go there with you now." In no time, the two of them arrived by the lake. Just by looking at his back, one might think Bach Lai was up to something suspicious. At this moment, Bach Li suddenly turned his head. How long are you two planning to keep staring? Tu Lam spoke immediately. Divine Doctor, please check my granddaughter and see if it can be cured. Bach Li looked over Tuang Huang Vu to assess, sensing the presence of the essence of energy and breath in her body. Pre-heavenly spiritual pulse, he muttered. If she doesn't know how to cultivate, I'm afraid she'll have to live in darkness for the rest of her life. The girl was born blind but had been trapped in a prison for 20 years. Turns out she also has albinism. Once exposed to sunlight, she will feel discomfort. But her grandfather didn't give up and found a divine doctor to help. However, after the divine doctor saw her, he told her to cultivate with him. Tu Huangvu knelt on the ground. Master, please accept this bow from your disciple. Bach Li softly said, I, Bach Li Van Tu, am not taking disciples for now. One day in the future, I may need a blind disciple, and you can only be a reserve for that position. 5 hours later, Bach Li taught Tu Vu Huang the basic techniques of breath control. Tu Vu Huang couldn't help but open her eyes and asked, Can I call you Van Tu, big brother? At that moment, Bach Li hesitated for a moment, and for a brief second, he remembered Diep Kin Ngu, the one who had betrayed him. From now on, just call me Bach Li, he said. Come closer and lean your head over here. Huang Vu obediently crawled up. Is this distance acceptable? Bach Li extended 2 fingers and gently placed them on the heart of Tu Vu Huang. Stay in this position and don't move. At that moment, a person appeared behind them. Well done, that guy Bach Li Van Tu dares to molest my sister. Tu Vu, without thinking, punched straight at Bach Li's head. But before he could even make a move, he was punched and sent flying, crashing to the ground. Tu Vu peeked out and called out, Why are you here? Tu Vu's face was filled with surprise. Little Vu, can you see now? Then he knelt down. Earlier, I was rude, thank you, Divine Doctor, for treating my sister, Bach Li asked. Has Du Thap Tam arrived yet? Tu Vu said he's almost here. Bach Li smiled. In that case, let's go meet him. In the living room, Du Thap Tam smiled, slightly puzzled. Tu, I see your complexion is much better. You don't need a checkup anymore, do you? Tu Lam laughed. Then he turned to look at Tu Vu Huang. Aren't you going to greet Divine Dr. Do? Tu Vu Huang smiled and greeted, Hello, Divine Dr. Du. Du Thap Tam slightly narrowed his eyes and asked, This is Tu Vu's sister, right? Wasn't it said that she couldn't be exposed to sunlight? Bach Li lowered his voice and said, Her eyes have been healed by me. A young man shouted, It seems like the Tu family enjoys playing both sides, huh? Let me tell you, he doesn't have the qualifications to even carry my grandfather's shoes. After hearing that, Bach Li's eyes turned cold and he remarked, What kind of person are you? All you do is bark. Tu Vu Huang also shouted angrily, Who do you think you are, daring to insult Divine Dr. Bach Li? Du Fai glared at Bach Li with a fierce expression. I've been around for so many years, and no one has ever dared to speak to me like that. Bach Li sneered, So what if I said it to you? Then I'll deal with you, he said, and with that, he kneed Bach Li powerfully. Du Thap Tam snorted lightly, with Du Fai's hot-headedness. This kid is in trouble now. However, Bach Li just sighed and raised his hand, gently pointing forward. He unleashed a force barely visible to the naked eye, piercing through Du Fai's knee. Du Thap Tam's heart skipped a few beats, releasing his inner energy. How could this kid possibly be a Dan King master? Then, Du Fai let out a miserable scream and collapsed to the ground. When he got up, his knee was completely shattered. Bach Li didn't even bother to look at him, saying, The tea's good, pour me another cup. A moment later, Zhou Fi angrily shouted, Ngo Trung Tuong, what are you standing there for? Quickly, capture him. Ngo Trung Tuong nearly fainted, he thought to himself. Isn't this situation going to cause me trouble instead? At this moment, Zhou Thap Tam smirked, unexpectedly surprised that our Hoaha actually had such a young grandmaster. What's your name, kid? Bach Li said his name was Ngok Lang Tu, from the 9 heavens of the mainland. Hearing that, Zhou Thap Tam laughed out loud. Do you think you're the Jade Emperor of the Langtiu Palace? I guess today I'll teach you a lesson. Get out here. Tu Lam, standing beside, advised Zhou Thun Wai, Calm down, both of them are semi-grandmasters. Why should you fight against each other? Before Zhou Thap Tam could say anything, Bach Li spoke up. Since you've said that, let's go outside and exchange a few moves. Not long after, the two of them were outside in the courtyard, but Zhou Thap Tam stood there striking poses, unwilling to make a move. Kid, do you know how fast a human can be? Bach Li, feeling a bit impatient, said, Stop dragging it out. If you want to fight, then hurry up. Du Thap Tam stepped forward and moved behind Bak Li. But when he turned around to look, the old man had already disappeared. Just as Bak Li was causing a commotion, Du Thap Tam reappeared in an unpredictable manner. "Accept your fate, just in time," Bak Li reacted quickly. He barely dodged the attack, spun around, and then threw a punch. He silently recited the fossilized fist opening. Immediately, his flesh and blood turned into solid stone. Seeing this, Du Thap Tam thought to himself, "This is bad." He quickly jumped back to create some distance between himself and Bak Li. Is this person really that strong? Why should I let a moment of anger turn him into a powerful enemy for the Du family? Thinking this, he raised his hand in a salute and said, "They say youth is full of heroes, and today I have witnessed one. I hope you can forgive me for today's incident, Lang Tu." Bak Li was speechless and thought to himself how quickly this person changes sides. Hearing that, the stone in Tu Lam's heart was finally lifted, as it was great that they could make peace. Then, Du Thap Tam glared at Du Fai with anger. "Hurry up and come here to bow and apologize to Lang Tu, the highest-ranking Special Forces soldier of Hoa Ha. They want to appoint a high school student as an officer. Not only that, but any prestigious school must award this title to him." Just a moment ago, Du Fai kneeled on the ground and apologized. "I'm sorry, Lang Tu." Bak Li didn't pay any attention and turned his head, saying, "Tu Huangvu, come train with me." They reached the mountain peak, and Tu Huangvu spoke bluntly. "You're already so skilled as a master. Surely you must know some martial arts, right?" Bak Li wore a serious expression. "Now I will teach you the method of cultivation, but you must follow the rule of Q. Do not reveal the techniques to anyone." Tu Huangvu saw this, and realizing there was no more room for teasing, nodded vigorously, like she was nodding to a serious matter. In the distance, Du Thap Tam stood side by side with Tan Lam. The dragon is about to descend to Dai Ha, and this young man's determination is unwavering. The girl of yours, being taught by him, will surely achieve great things in the future. Tu Lam narrowed his eyes and said, "So, Du Then Wai also wants to get acquainted with Bak Li." Du Thap Tam chuckled awkwardly. "I'm afraid I can't climb that high. From his gaze, I can already tell this kid doesn't think much of me." After hearing that, Tu Lam's expression turned serious. Immediately after, he turned his head and looked towards Tu Vo, the leader of the Special Forces Dragon Team. "You're still lacking a commanding officer, aren't you? I think it's better to let him take the position." One day quickly passed by. Just as it was about time for dinner, Bak Li slowly opened his eyes. Tu Huangvu immediately greeted him warmly. "Master, you've finally woken up." Bak Li nodded slightly. "You must be hungry, right? But you've also gained quite a bit. You've reached the spirit realm, and in the future, as your cultivation increases, your albinism will naturally be cured." Tu Huangvu widened her beautiful eyes. "So my hair can return to black like other girls." Bak Li smiled. "Once you're cured, does the hair color really matter? You are you, and there's no one else like you in this world." At the dinner table, Tu Lam introduced the man in military uniform sitting across from him to Bak Li. "Hello, Bak Li. I am Go Thien Quan, a lieutenant general of the Eastern Chao military region." Bak Li was secretly startled, but it only made things more confusing. "Perhaps you're curious as to why I'm here. Well, let me be straightforward. I want to invite you to take the position of commanding officer of the Special Forces Dragon Team and also award you the rank of colonel." Hearing this, Bak Li was taken aback, but he quickly regained his composure and said, "General No, do you hold me in such high regard?" Ngo Thien Quan said firmly, "As long as you agree, you can go to Thandlong Mountain tomorrow." Bak Li pondered for a moment, then shook his head. "You're calling on me, but I still have to take the college entrance exam. I'm too busy for that." Hearing that, Ngo Thien Quan was slightly surprised. "If you truly want to attend university, you can enter any prestigious school directly. Moreover, as long as you stay at Thandlong Mountain for 2 months. After that, you can decide whether to stay or leave. With your achievements, at most you'd only get into an ordinary university." Thinking of his parents, he didn't hesitate any longer. "Then I'll choose Dongchao University. Tomorrow, if I have free time, I can go there and take a look." The next day, a helicopter flew over to this place. The pilot glanced at the team member beside him and said, "Lu, what exactly is the background of that Bak Li guy? Making us fly the helicopter to pick him up. Even the division commanders in the military have never received such treatment." Lu chuckled. Anyway, our mission is to pick him up and take him to Thanlong Mountain. If he can't find the headquarters, then he can go back where he came from. Let's see if he can get past this challenge. If he can't even climb a 30-meter rope, we'll just turn around and leave. Bach Li was momentarily speechless. Seriously, just flying in a helicopter and still running into trouble. But he still lifted his foot and, like a cannonball, charged toward the helicopter. At this moment, the pilot looked out the window and wondered, why can't I see him? Tu Lu laughed and said he must have hidden somewhere. Before he could finish speaking, Bach Li suddenly appeared behind them, scaring the two of them half to death. Don't waste any more time. Head to Thanlong Mountain, and don't try anything funny along the way, understood? An hour later, the helicopter landed in a deep mountain forest. Bach Li glanced around and asked, normally, isn't there anyone guarding this place? The pilot awkwardly replied, usually. There are people. But, Bach Li sneered, are you trying to intimidate me from the start? The officer said, don't overthink it. It's just that everyone heard you're still young and they're very proud, so… Bach Li didn't say anything more and turned to head straight forward. Tu Lu, seeing this, quickly reminded him, that's the wrong direction. The path is behind us. But Bach Li chuckled mockingly. I'm taking a shortcut. After saying that, he immediately walked over to the edge of the cliff. With both hands in his pockets, without any hesitation, he jumped down. Seeing this, Tu Lu couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Looks like our Thanlong Dragon Special Forces have kicked the wrong metal board this time. At this moment, on the square at the foot of the mountain, a dozen or so Special Forces soldiers were standing. Ke Hong spoke to the team members about the newly appointed officer. But who would have thought it would make everyone so angry? A little brat like him, who hasn't even served in the military. How could he be qualified to be an officer of ours? I don't care who he is or how powerful his backing is, no matter how long it lasts. As long as he dares to come to Diep Dao, I'll be the first to challenge him. As soon as he finished speaking, a loud explosion suddenly echoed from behind. Diep Dao abruptly turned around. All that could be seen was a figure in the smoke. You just said you wanted to challenge me, right? Bach Li smiled and walked towards the cliff. Without a hint of hesitation, he stepped forward, falling into the deep abyss, tens of thousands of feet deep. But he didn't lose his life. Instead, he landed firmly on the ground. From now on, I will be the commanding officer of you all. Anyone who is dissatisfied can come and challenge me now. In an instant, all the team members fell silent, feeling that this person was ruthless. Could we actually defeat him? Ke Hong stared at Bach Li with a gaze as sharp as a knife. With just this little skill of yours, you're not even fit for the battlefield. Forget the enemy. Even I have dozens of ways to take your life right now. After hearing this, the soldiers who had been surprised earlier began to laugh mockingly. With your petty skills, every shot we take will be the end of you. Bach Li chuckled mockingly. Then let me see how you plan to handle me with just one shot. After saying that, he looked at Diep Dao. You said you wanted to challenge me first, right? Diep Dao tensed up, speaking in a low voice. I did say that. Bach Li suddenly shouted, raising his voice. Haven't you eaten yet? Diep Dao instinctively shouted, Report, officer, it was me who said it. Bach Li sneered, flicking his finger. You're a soldier. Yet you speak like one of those weaklings. I'll give you a move. Come at me. Diep Dao, like a fierce tiger escaping its cage, immediately charged forward like a missile. He threw a punch straight into Bach Li's chest. But Bach Li simply raised his hand slightly. Diep Dao's arm was knocked aside, his body seemingly hit by a powerful force, causing him to stumble back several steps. But he was still unwilling to back down and suddenly lifted his leg to kick Bach Li in the head. Bach Li stood still, raising his hand to grab Diep Dao's ankle. Seeing this, he secretly smirked in mockery, thinking to himself, the power of this kick is enough to break even a large tree, and yet he dares to stop it with his hand. But in the next moment, he realized he was wrong. Bach Li's hand was as hard as steel. Before Diep Dao could make his next move, Bach Li used his strength to throw him, sending him crashing hard into the tree trunk. Diep Dao immediately spat out 2 liters of sting, his mouth constantly yelling, I was wrong. Bach Li turned his head and scanned the entire field. Who's next? No one responded, and even the sound of conversation was several times quieter. Bach Li angrily shouted, Are you all useless? Even the instructors don't dare challenge a soldier. What kind of soldiers are you? As soon as he finished speaking, Ke Hong stepped forward. I represent the 3 deputy officers to challenge you. If I lose, I will be willing to follow your commands from now on. Bak Lai coldly laughed. I'll consider that you have some backbone. Then they heard Kui Hong angrily shouting, both hands shielding her chest while assuming a defensive stance. This is my strongest defensive body, don't hold back, just hit me. Bak Lai immediately leaped up and swung his right leg down. Then a thunderous boom resounded. Shockwaves spread out from the point of impact. Everyone was violently shaken. Damn it, is this even a human anymore? After the dust settled, Kui Hong's battered figure emerged. In a panic, even her pistol fell to the ground. Chief Officer, my lost. I admit my defeat. But even so, someone was still unconvinced that brat what right does he have. Bak Lai suddenly furrowed his brows, picked up the pistol from the ground, aimed it straight at Kui Hong. So should I perform another move for you guys? After saying that, he immediately pulled the trigger. The bullet that was supposed to hit Kui Hong suddenly changed direction, shooting into the grass beside them. Kui Hong was so scared that sweat covered her forehead. A supreme godly gunner, how could this be? At this moment, a deputy officer finally stepped forward. I didn't expect that not only are your martial arts exceptional, but you're also a supreme godly gunner, Ngui Tan Kong. I am willing to follow your command. Bak Lai nodded slightly. Fall back if everyone has surrendered. Then from today onward, I am the chief officer of the Than Long Special Forces team. But let me make it clear, in my eyes, a special forces team doesn't need 1,000 people. 300 are enough. In the past, Viet Vuong Sao Tien led 3,000 troops to destroy Wu. But I, Bak Li, only need 300 elite warriors to dominate the world. In the coming period, I will intensify your training. Anyone who can't endure it can pack up and leave. These bold and heroic words instantly boosted morale, Chief Officer. We will definitely not let you down. Bak Li nodded in satisfaction. I want to go to the military camp to change clothes, gather at the training ground in 30 minutes. He arrived at the tent in the military camp. While putting on his military uniform, he was also considering how to train them. Suddenly, an idea popped into his head. With just a slight modification to the Bak Thu Kien, it could allow the body to absorb the spirit light quickly. Gradually, they would become as tough as steel, with blades and arrows unable to penetrate. It could be used as the perfect curriculum for new recruits. After changing into his military uniform, Bak Lai leisurely walked out of the tent. Today, I will teach you a type of martial art similar to the Ngu Kam Lai of Jai Ha. You can call it the 12 Animals Fist. Now, I will demonstrate it once in front of you. Just watch seriously. After speaking, he began to demonstrate. The first move, Crazy Ox Stomps, struck like thunder. The second move, Fierce Tiger Pounces to seize prey, was like a sudden strike. The third move, Rabbit Shadow Shift, was a swift and sudden movement. After soaring into the sky, it was combined with the fourth move. The fourth move, Divine Dragon Swings Its Tail, was as fast as the wind. After performing all 11 moves, the training dummy had almost turned into pieces. Have you all figured it out? The previous 11 moves were all extremely powerful, so what about the 12th move? This is hot water heated up to 60 degrees. Even Special Forces soldiers can't withstand it. But a high school student was completely fine, soaking in it for 2.5 hours. Just earlier, Bak Lai finished changing into his military uniform. He demonstrated the 12 Animals Fist for everyone. But after performing the 11th move, he suddenly stopped. The 12 Animals Fist still has the rat left. After the previous 11 moves all failed, I suggest you retreat quickly like a rat, run as fast as you can, whenever you can. Surviving is important. After this period, I will turn you into bulls, dogs, into fierce beasts. After running 15 kilometers, everyone huffed and puffed as they returned to the camp. They discovered that Bak Li had already prepared a barrel of hot water for each person. As they stepped in, it felt as though countless needles were continuously piercing their skin. Some couldn't endure it and screamed in agony. But Bak Li sat calmly in the water, looking relaxed and enjoying the experience. In the future, you'll naturally appreciate me. Speaking of which, it's about time for me to head home. The next day, Bak Li sat in the spacious office wearing his military uniform. But he couldn't contain his excitement. Hu Kim Fong, prepare the helicopter to take me home. However, the helicopter didn't take him home right away. It landed at the No 1 hospital in Haitien City. Chief Officer Than Long, I am Go Than Van. Please follow me. General Ngo has requested your presence. As Bak Lai entered the VIP hospital room, he saw an elderly man lying on the bed. Actually, the reason I invited you here is because General Chao Thuong, The commander of the military district is ill. Could you spare some time to check on his condition? The family members standing beside the bed were crying softly. For the past few months, the condition of the elderly man had worsened, and he could no longer eat or drink. Bak Lai walked to the bedside, a sense of worry and sadness filling his heart. Years ago, this elderly man had led the Huaha army, pushing the general of Country M to the brink, but he could not withstand the erosion of time. Ngo Tianquan sighed helplessly. General Chao is over 70 years old. He should have retired long ago. But he has always been concerned about the country, so we couldn't persuade him to seek treatment in time. We, his subordinates, are also responsible. Bak Li frowned slightly, silently thinking to himself that the situation was very serious. Perhaps only 3 days remained. Ngo Tianquan introduced to the family, I have found a divine doctor for everyone. This is Bak Lai. Upon hearing this, Chao Nuok Jan was surprised and asked, Can you cure my grandfather's illness? Bak Lai calmly smiled. It may not be difficult. Chao Hiandan immediately clasped his hands together, saying, As long as you can cure my father, I will fulfill any request you have. But at that moment, an unpleasant voice echoed from outside the door. Uncle, you really believe this brat? Which medical university did you graduate from to dare call yourself a divine doctor? Bak Lai shook his head. I'm still in high school. I haven't graduated from any medical university, and I don't have any accomplishments. Luang Vu immediately laughed upon hearing this, and yet you dare to speak so arrogantly, claiming you can cure Grandpa Chao's illness. Bak Lai furrowed his brows, about to lose his temper. Then Chao Nuok Dan angrily shouted, He is the guest invited by General Ngo Trung. What kind of attitude is that? Chao Hiandan whispered from the side, After all, she's his mother, and you're his uncle. Be a little more respectful when speaking. Luang Vai softened his tone slightly. Then why was he invited here? Does he have some real skill? To Tian Quan, a little displeased, said, Just let him treat General Chao, and you'll understand. As for his background, it's not appropriate to discuss further. Bak Lai casually shrugged. If that's the case, you all can treat General Chao yourselves, but you must do it quickly. He may only have 3 days left. Upon hearing this, Ngo Tianquan's expression changed. What do you mean, are you sure? Luang Phuong Gach pointed at Bak Lai and scolded, What kind of talk is that? General Ngo is the one who invited him here. How dare you show disrespect to my elder? At that moment, the bald man took out the medical diagnosis, and it was clear from the paper that it stated, 1 week, don't make sensational claims here. Ngo Tianquan then looked towards Chao Hiandan and said, Please don't doubt Bak Li, because the illness of Old Man Lam from the Tu family was cured by him. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire room fell into complete silence. I just had someone inquire, and it's true, moreover, the hereditary disease of the Tu family now has hope of being cured. Chao Hiandan immediately showed his excitement. What do you need to treat my father, Bak Lai, please? Just tell me. Luang Vai stroked his chin and said, I'll admit, kid, you have some skill, but if you can't cure him. Before he could finish his sentence, Bak Li grabbed his neck and squeezed. You've been rambling nonstop since earlier, you're really talkative. But Luang Vai was still not convinced. You dare lay a hand on me. You must be tired of living. Bak Lai's gaze gradually became sharper. Do you know what shot put is? Let me give you a little demonstration. After saying that, he suddenly exerted his strength. He threw Luang Vai straight out. A loud thud echoed as he slammed against the wall. It scared the girl sitting in the restroom so much that she almost got constipated. Bak Lai couldn't help but sneer. The only difference is that you're even easier to throw than a shot put. The old man's life had only 5 minutes left. The young man immediately reached out his hand, attacking towards him. It turned out to be a miraculous spiritual energy that could unblock all blood vessels. Just a few seconds later, the old man had completely recovered. Earlier, Bak Li had thrown Luang Vi out. Luang Phuong Nosh looked on, her eyes wide and mouth agape. When she finally reacted, she scolded Bak Lai, Are you planning to bully the Chao family members? Bak Li said nothing. Chao Hiandan shouted, Shut up! The Chao family is under my command now. Don't bother Bak Lai, the divine doctor, while he's treating my father. Bak Lai smiled. In that case, I invite everyone to step outside. He walked to the bedside, but Bak Lai did not start right away. Instead, he took a deep breath. Only then did he lift the blanket. He took out a strand of spiritual silk, let it enter General Chao's body. After that, the spiritual silk wrapped around the heart and began unblocking all the clogged heart vessels. A few minutes later, General Chao opened his eyes. "I'm not dead yet, how is that possible?" Bach Lai gently said, "As long as you quit smoking, living another 10 years won't be a problem." General Chao smiled kindly. "Kid, are you a doctor here?" Bach Lai shook his head. "I can be considered your subordinate, and at the same time a super sharpshooter. I wonder if that satisfies you." General Chao opened his eyes wide. "Our Zhong Chao also has a super sharpshooter, is that true?" Bach Li smiled and nodded confidently. Outside the hospital room, Luong Puong Gach started making a fuss again. "Why would you trust a kid like that? If he can really cure him, it would be a miracle." The bald guy chimed in, "I'm telling you, someone like him doesn't even deserve to enter the hospital room." The right to enter the hospital room. At that moment, the hospital room door suddenly opened. Bach Li and General Chao walked out, their actions and gestures very cordial. Everyone widened their eyes as they walked out.